Recording in progress.
Are we on?
Yes, on live.
Great. Hey, thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelly. I'm a CPA and the CEO of Everyday CPA. You know, about 3 weeks ago, I got an email, one of those irritating things that come in about 100 times a day. Most of them I hit delete and get on with it, and then maybe clear it out of my spam or junk at some point. But this one kind of got my attention. And it said something like this: health insurance for truckers. And that got my attention. And why, you might ask? Well, the simple reason is that I love truckers. And for all you consumers out there, businesses or individuals who don't think that you love truckers, let me tell you with certainty, you love truckers. These are the men and women who travel over 100,000 miles every year, work long, dangerous hours, spend weeks at a time and months at a time on the road. They rarely spend time at home with their families. Also, you and I can have the goods and services, or at least the goods that we need to run our lives and run our businesses. And it's a very hard job, and these men and women do it, and I love them for it. I do the tax and accounting and business formation work for many truckers, and I love to take care of them all. So if you're listening, John B., Jared G., Mike, Wendy, Bill, you know who you are. I love you guys, and so does the entire country. And even though half the country is totally oblivious to what you do, I'm not oblivious to it. And as it turned out, neither is David King, my guest today. He's not oblivious to it, and he loves the truckers too. His company is the one that sent me that health insurance email message. So with that said, I'm going to introduce David King. David, we don't know each other yet, and perhaps maybe our audience doesn't know you, but maybe you could introduce yourself, and then I have a couple questions to kind of kickstart our 20-minute session.
Sure. Well, first of all, my name is David King. I'd like to thank everybody that's spending some time to listen to our conversation today. We're having the conversation for you, not for each other, and we hope we can provide some value to the time you're investing into this 20 minutes. Just a little bit of background on me. I actually am a business person at heart. Sold a business back around 2000 and went to work for a trucking association and ended up running that association for on and off for close to 2 decades. And man, did I get an education when I jumped into an owner-operator association, trying to bring them up, elevate the offerings, and make sure that we were providing the right value that we did. I learned just how difficult the lifestyle is, how challenging it was from a business standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. And I think the thing that I immediately learned was it's really easy to stereotype somebody behind the wheel of a truck going down the road, and you just cannot do that. There are some incredible individuals behind the wheel of these trucks. I think them a lot like I think of myself on a motorcycle. We're out there for a reason. It's because we love what we do. We want to see different things every day, and man, do they get to do that. But to wrap this little bit up, I have spent the last couple of decades putting programs together, benefit programs in particular, to try to improve the life and profitability for truck drivers, small fleets. And a lot of our offerings work towards anyone that's working in an independent contractor relationship, and you don't have access to benefits, and you're not big enough that you've got people lined up to help you. We specialize in helping the smaller to mid-sized folks that are just forgotten in the benefit marketplace.
Great. David, that's terrific. So truckers are a big part of our economy and your work. They make it work for all of us. Both of us kind of share a true appreciation for for them, and so they're such an important part of our economy. And frankly, I don't think they get enough love and attention, if you will.
No, they don't. They've got the same kind of problems that every industry has. It's a big enough industry that you're bound to have some idiots, and the idiots seem to get more of the attention than the people that are doing everything right every day long. When we wrap up this conversation, I'm getting in my pickup truck and heading to Louisville, Kentucky for the Mid-America Trucking Show. And this is one of those prime opportunities to get together, get in front of these wonderful folks and remind myself just how diverse they are.
Yeah, that's great. So I think every month I'm gonna, one way or another, we're gonna, they're so important to our economy that I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to once a month, and I'll herewith and invite you to come back whenever we feel like you want to, and we've got something to say, and so we can kind of help them out. But one thing that occurred to me in the last couple of years, and this was about the only thing that you and I rehearsed. They said, let's talk about what happened to these guys and these men and women. I say guys for men and women. What happened to them in the last 2 years? I saw it from a perspective we can lend, but I'm curious, this COVID thing, 2020 to 2021, the impact that you saw on truckers, that the pandemic itself had, and then the overreaction from our state and federal governments to the pandemic. And, I want to be clear with this, Dave. This is the first time you and I have talked on this. This is what I call a no woke zone. You've heard of no wake zone in voting. This is a no woke zone. I don't care about being politically correct. I don't want to necessarily go out of my way to offend, but if it does, we can be respectful and talk like professionals. But if it offends somebody, the hell with them. I don't care. So don't worry about that. Let's have some straight talk. I believe that's true for everybody, but truckers, they want straight talk. So let's talk about what you saw in 2021 and what impact this had on these men and women out there.
Well, it's interesting. We all were, I had just gotten back from a trip outside of the country about a week before everything shut down. And as I sat there trying to take in what was going on, literally, actually afraid to touch a gas pump, to put gas in my pickup truck because of what we were reading and what we were hearing. As I'm thinking this through, I'm thinking about these people that I work with day in and day out that are traveling all over the country, exposed to people all over the country, spending time by themselves. The truck stops were closing, the restaurants were closing, they couldn't eat. They couldn't get what they need to keep their things on the road. They were having trouble finding parts, having trouble finding fuel. It was just fascinating. And then as I think about the potential medical ramifications of this, I'm thinking, what's going to happen when these men and women get ill and they're in the sleeper cab of a truck in a truck stop and they can't get help? My mind immediately went to the worst case scenario, like something out of Stephen King's The Stand, if you've ever read that. And I find it fascinating looking back that never really happened. Despite the fact that in the beginning, professional drivers were having trouble finding PPE and what they needed to do their job and what we thought was the safest manner to do it. That being said, also, in the day-to-day activities of most over-the-road drivers, they don't have a lot of interaction with people. The fuel counter, the fuel island, a diner, a restaurant, maybe a grocery store, a shipper picking up and dropping off. And in a lot of cases, they don't have a lot of interaction with the shippers. They pretty much walk to a window, present paperwork, walk away. So most of the drivers that I talked to didn't think it was any big deal at all. They were going to do what they continued to do if our economy didn't fall apart while everything was shut down. And interestingly enough, I'm sure as you look back, I'm guessing that your book of business and your clients in the owner operating trucking saw incredible earnings during the pandemic. There were bonuses being paid to them. Freight rates actually went up as drivers chose to come off the road. It doesn't so much impact somebody hauling contract freight or that is leased onto a motor carrier because they're doing what their lease, contractually obligates them to do. But in the spot, folks playing in the spot market, getting freights and loads one at a time, we saw incredible earnings over that period of time. So the ones that were able to adapt and keep moving forward did real well. Some of them worked less than they've ever worked and made more money than they've ever made. And then of course, as we come out of the pandemic and things seem to start normalize, and we're all dealing with what's happening to us, inflation, we're all dealing with shortages in everything that we're dealing with. It is putting some tremendous pressure on them right now, finding tires, finding parts with a breakdown, collision parts if someone runs into them. It's impacting everything. And unfortunately, in most cases, incomes have not risen to match the pace of inflation. So we're seeing one of those cycles where the weak get thinned out. A lot of folks that were running on their own operating authority are now leased onto a motor carrier to have a more stable income, or some of them have gone back to becoming company drivers. And when the cycle starts to go back up and freight rates start to rise, the ones that can will move right back into where the greener pastures are. The business acumen of a typical owner operator truck driver is widely varying. We've got men and women in the industry that were incentivized to become an owner operator without even really knowing what they were getting into. And overnight, instead of being a truck driver, they're now a business owner that just happens to drive a truck. There's a big mindset that has to come with that. With all of that money coming in, people have to understand that that's a gross income. And that really doesn't matter. What's matter is what's left, what you can pay yourself, what you can save for repairs to keep your truck on the road. And as I mentioned, with the business being cyclical, what we're seeing right now is not overly shocking. But I see a lot of people now that can take advantage of the situation, maybe taking a little more time off than usual, but they're typically not the individuals that are driving brand new trucks with $3,000 note payments on them or $4,000 note payments on them.
Yeah. One of the things, you touched on something that's kind of near and dear to me and what I do. The value I try to add is this business owner concept. You really hit it on the head, is that, and it isn't just in trucking, it's any kind of business. You've
Correct.
got people that are good at running a business, that know what it takes to kind of run a business, or and those that don't. If you're a musician, many musicians don't know how to run a business, and if they generate revenue and profit, et cetera, then many times they need help. The difference, I'd say, with the trucking industry is, unlike that other industries that have varying degrees of capability in running their business, truckers are on the road so much that they don't really have the time, unless they set up remote activities to run their business while they're on the road, or they have a spouse that is taking care of their books for them. and is a willing partner in that,
Right.
that they end up having challenges, and that's where I have really tried to focus on, get it cleaned up, get rid of the tax debt, get rid of file the tax returns on time, maybe set up a company in different state. If you're traveling all over, there's no reason to, file in a certain, have your entity set up and state, get on W-2. A lot of things you can do and to manage that. And if they don't have a spouse that is kind of taking care of that, I've found that that's where they end up getting having these challenges. And it also relates to your business line of taking care of their benefits, if you will, their health insurance, their life insurance. They are business owners, and they need to structure fringe benefits, company benefits for their plan, for their business, and they don't have time to do that either. And so
Right.
they really need help from external professionals, because they're not going to go and hire somebody, director of human resource for an owner operator trucking enterprise. It's madness, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, and you hit the nail on the head. We find, looking at drivers from a health and wellness perspective, about a third of them are blessed and have access to a spouse's health care plan because they've got a spouse that's working in the marketplace. That seems to me to be the ideal way for most of them to go. You've got a third of them that have an operation that generates enough income that they can buy the protection that they need. And then you've got a third of them are just praying they don't get sick. And
okay, let's get onto the health insurance itself, because I want to, while we're here, we want to keep this to 20 minutes. Tell me, what can a trucker do that doesn't have health insurance, doesn't want to have to get health insurance, but probably needs it? What's out there for him? What's his or her next move? If we can motivate them to take that next step, what should they do?
Well, the first thing they need to do is they need to talk to a professional and share a little bit of information about what the situation is, whether they've got a family at home, whether it's just them, whether they're dealing with pre-existing conditions. And there are a lot of ways to attack that problem. The Affordable Care Act marketplace, or Obamacare as people tend to think of it, can provide some incredible options for some people. The challenge with those plans is the affordable plans come with sky high deductibles and sky high out of pocket maximums, which means you're effectively paying for something you're not seeing a lot of benefit out of. And, I know as an older male, one of my biggest health challenges is to watch my blood pressure and watch my cholesterol. Those are things that are so common, the diabetes in the trucking industry, and all of those things can be managed very affordably. If you get your arms around them and get them under control, they can be managed with generic prescriptions that you can get for nothing or next to nothing with prescription discount cards. There's telehealth available. We have a telehealth product right now that is an answer to prayers for the uninsured. They can, they and their family can connect with professionals via telehealth medical appointments anywhere in the country. There's no usage fee for it.
There's who's making money on that deal? You don't have to pay for it?
It works like insurance. There's a monthly fee, and in our case, it's $10 a month, and there's no per usage fee. But you figure the majority of the people that buy it don't need it every day. It works just like insurance. It's a risk pooling model. But the beauty of this thing for the truck driver is it's something they can have for their family at home. It's something that works just like that when they're in their truck. Oh, and by the way, they can send a prescription on down the road to where you're going to be in a truck to a pharmacy.
I love that. That's a great
where
idea.
You can pick it up.
Yeah.
It's less than Netflix.
All right. So
It's not
that's,
insurance, but it will keep that strep throat
yeah,
from
yeah,
turning
yeah,
into a big job. It'll keep that flu from making
yeah.
you sick for 3 weeks.
Okay.
And that's the
So,
challenge.
tell that we'll get that posted. That's called telehealth, and they can, what do they get? They buy that through you? Your team? Is that how we
Our,
get this done?
our team can set them up with that. We're such big believers in it that we provide the first 2 months at no cost. And after that, it's either $9.99 a month for an individual or $10.99 a month for an entire immediate family. It can be purchased very easily online. You download an app on your phone and it's active the next day. There's
Yeah,
not
I
even
love
a
that idea. I love that
2 week or,
idea.
and
Yeah,
then we have some insurance products that can work around something like that to provide for wellness care,
yeah,
prescription coverage, and things of that nature. So what I run into and what I'll hear multiple times a day in Louisville is people that don't understand. They're scared. They know their health's not where it needs to be. So what's the easiest thing to do?
yeah. Right,
Ignore it.
right,
Nothing.
right.
And
Well,
if we can
yeah,
engage them in a conversation, there are
yeah.
options out there for them. And
That's
I'm sure you
great.
can relate to that from a financial standpoint. You
Yeah,
run into
right.
that with tax issues.
Well, I can relate to it as a guy because none of us, I mean, I know they're female truckers too, so I'm not saying that, but I mean, guys don't want to deal with their medical stuff, right? Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Just let me do my stuff. So this is a way that they can, and believe me, I didn't know this was even a product. So this wasn't a setup to try to help you uh sell that stuff. It was the reason we're having this conversation is I do care about truckers. I do care about their wellness, and I know how they are. And if they don't have health insurance, this is kind of like a first step, right? There's no underwriting, I'm
Right.
thinking, right? No approval.
Right. No.
And then get on the phone, make the call to get your cough diagnosed or whatever it is, and you're ready to rock and roll. All right. How do people get a hold of you for that, David? What's the best
The
way?
the easiest way is to visit home20health.com.
Home
Just
20
like it
Health.
sounds.
Okay.
Just like
Home
your
20.
home20health.com. There are links on that page. There is a way to get a hold of me and my partner, Greg Helmick, who is a licensed insurance agent that actually has the conversations with people to work through these options as
Okay.
to what's best for them.
That's great. Okay. That's it for right now, but we've got some questions, I believe. Maylene, do we have any questions? I shouldn't say we do, but normally we do. Maylene, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, we do have question here. This is actually from one of our Facebook audience, and the question is, do you know? This is for David, and the question is, do you know of health insurance plan designed for truckers, or are we not a group that insurance companies want to cover?
There are options out there. You just have to know where to look for them. If you go to a typical insurance broker that doesn't work with what I would call an at-risk population, they may not have access to some of the things that we have. We can provide everything from plans that will help deal with some of these issues to some guaranteed acceptance life insurance that is a very simple policy to buy. It can cost just a little bit more, and it doesn't pay full benefits the first year for obvious reasons, but there's no medical requirement to it, and very little underwriting. The key is you have to find the right individuals to work with. One of the first questions I ask a driver that's having trouble financially is, who's doing your book work, who's providing financial advice to you. It has to be someone that knows the business, and that goes to everything that a driver or a small fleet needs to conduct business. They need to be working with professionals that specialize in the industry, not individuals that are just looking at them as another lead to sell to somebody else. And that is rampant in the transportation industry.
And David, you guys are in the you specialize in in truckers, long haul, short haul, all of them, right?
Greg and I do in particular.
Okay.
But as I mentioned, our products work well for independent contractors in general. So we do a lot of work across a lot of different industries. One of our biggest books of business is the National Association of Realtors.
Great.
They're just like owner operator truck drivers. They have no access to benefits. They're on their own.
I see.
I see a question in here for David. Maylene, I don't know if you were going to get this, but I'll pick it up. I just saw it. This is for David. Can you help me get health insurance for me and my kids, or just me?
No, families are great.
Okay, families are great. Maylene, any other questions?
Yes, we do have another question here. This is for you, Kelly. It's
Okay.
from Carlos, and I have some unfiled tax years. Should I take care of this year first or file the previous year first?
I think you said, should I take care of this year first or take care of the previous years? What he said? Okay.
That's right.
Best to, Carlos, I think you said, best to just, let's deal with this year first. So at least you can get that one filed timely, and then deal with the other one, the prior years.
Okay. Just a
Okay.
follow-up question for the viewers, though. Would this be a penalty for them if they just take care of the previous year or this year, not the previous year? Would there be any penalty for that?
Well, there's you've already got the late filing, no filing penalty, that kind of stuff. So what's done is done. Now it's just interest that accumulates on any potential tax that's due. So that isn't, I wouldn't worry about that stuff. Like, that's kind of a sunk cost at this point. But to mitigate or minimize future costs, penalties, etc., let's deal with 2022 first, and then go back and clean up the other one. It's a normal thing with truckers. I mean, this is what happens. I've seen it many times. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just life. Life happens when you're on the road, and you're on the road a lot. So don't worry about it. Let's just get it resolved. Anything else, Maylene?
Yes, last question. This is actually for you, Kelly, and this is from one of our viewers in Facebook. And the question is, I have some unfiled tax here. Should I take? Oh, yeah, that's already done. Hold
You
on.
did that one.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes, that's the last question that we have for today's session.
Okay. David, anything else you want to add, or should we let these, we've already wowed them with our great conversation. I enjoyed talking to you, though.
Thank you. I will have a lot of conversations over the next 3 days in Louisville with drivers of all types, everything you can imagine about all kinds of issues related to the business they do. The most important thing that an individual can do is look for help. Don't ignore it. There's nothing worse. You've got so much time to think when you're on the road by yourself as a driver. You can't have your mind worked up worrying about things that are hanging over your head. You've got to deal with them. You can find right individuals. There's help out there. We can hook them up. If I'm reached out to, I've got counselors that they can talk to. I've got business coaches that they can talk to. Equipment issues that people can advise them. And all of these guys aren't looking to sell something. We're in this business because we want to help people. And if we help people and we can get them to someone that what you don't want to happen is you don't want them to Google and just blindly pick and start spilling it, because I'm preaching to the choir here. You have to make sure you're dealing with the right individuals, and with the educational material that's out there for owner operators today, there is no excuse for not having your arms around your numbers, understanding your operation, know when you're making a profit, know when you can't make a profit. There are resources out there. Things like this truck show are a gold mine. Just lock your wallet in the truck. Don't take your wallet in,
Yeah.
because there's all kinds of people trying to sell you all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But the educational opportunities are just phenomenal at these things.
That's great. Well, I mean, we have different angles. Your focus is on kind of the physical health and well-being. My focus with these guys is on the financial statement health and well-being. But increasingly, we recognize that both of those can, if one is sick, then the other can get sick.
Right.
There's
Right.
crossover. The stress, emotional stress that we see with tax issues, for instance, is enormous, right? It comes out sideways, and we know what sideways means. You know, it's alcohol abuse, drug abuse, physical abuse, those kind of things, and
Yeah.
and heart attacks and stress and all that kind of stuff. So I want to emphasize that we are here as a company to help these guys. You're here to help their body and soul. We're here to help their financial statement and soul. So I thank you for attending this, David, and I look forward to doing it again.
Excellent.
Maylene, thank you for hosting. You can close it out now. Thank you for watching, people. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining our session for today. And see you all next week.